wrapped from 1 to 13, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
that's
I was actually thinking of buying it.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Yeah, that's cool. You kind of mentioned your mom there, Rose, and Donna would always mention her. Kind of touch on her a little bit and how special she was to all you guys.
Well, mom. We had when mom was around. She was the head of the household. She was the matriarch, and she it was her and dad just lived such a crazy life. I mean, they got married very young. And back then, dad was Protestant, mom was Roman Catholic, and dad was from Canada, mom was from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they got married, and he went on this crazy 18-year kind of traipse around North America. Dad playing in the minor leagues, and mom always had, I think they moved 52 times, I think, and mom really enjoyed herself. Like everybody said, "Oh, that's terrible." Mom said, "I had a great time because hockey was so different back then." That the guys would go like after the really weird thing was, Dad and I talked about it a little while ago on our podcast, that they weren't allowed to drink. Like 2 hours before the game, they weren't allowed to take any liquid, no water, nothing.
Oh, seriously?
So because they used to think that it would bloat you and slow you down. So just think that they played a full game in super, hot wool sweaters, and they would just, after the game, in the shower, out and down to the bar, and they would all go to the bar together because they were dying of thirst. They probably hadn't drank in probably 6 hours, plus played a full hockey game, and they would all go out and they'd have drinks and they to the wee hours of the morning, and mom and dad had a great time, and I think mom was a big reason why dad was successful in coaching and in his hockey. So she kept him grounded. So, she was a very special person.
No, I was just waiting for you guys. We're all working on our cues here, Tim. We're all the boys are brand new here. Mikey's got to figure that out.
I see a jacket, a Don Cherry jacket. That was from Ducks Unlimited, right?
It sure was from Ducks Unlimited, and I've been waiting to tell the story. And so, obviously, one of my favorite things, and in the corner here, I've got an action figure. You can't see it; it's kind of a glare, but it's one of those old action figures, and he's got his boy Blue there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, So, funny story. One of my best friends, best man at my wedding, his name's Nick. He calls me up and says, "Let's go to this Ducks Unlimited dinner." So I end up going, and he's like, "Got to buy a ticket." I'm like, "I don't buy tickets. Like, I don't have that type of luck." And so he's like, "Buy one ticket." So I'm like, "Fine, I'll buy one ticket." So I literally bought one $5 ticket. Yeah, the cheap guy I am. And all of a sudden, they're doing the draw, and there was two prizes. All of a sudden, they read the number. I look down at my one ticket. Everyone else got these sleeves, and they've got their girlfriends, and them looking at them. I look at my one ticket. I'm like, got it. So, anyways, end up winning, and basically it was between two things. It was between a shotgun,
really, wow.
and the jacket. So I took the jacket. And Nick was pissed because he's like, "Yeah, I give you the dinner. You should do the shotgun." I said, "Hey, I bought my ticket. I won fair and square."
Yeah.
I literally on the way out, though, guys. I'll tell you on the way out, I don't know how many offers I got, and what people were offering me was obscene. And I'm like, nope, wouldn't sell it in the world because I'm a big Don Cherry fan, right?
Yeah, he wore those jackets. He put on all those jackets and put on all the shirts. So that was actually worn by him.
Wow. You know what's funny? You always wonder about, I'm not a memorabilia guy, right? Because I'm like, I'm getting, someone's hosing me. But if I got it from the horse's mouth, I'm gonna take your word for it that was absolutely worn by Don. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Tim, just touched on the jacket, and again, I didn't know the history behind the jacket, but was it the same jacket that was distributed for Ducks, or was it different types of jackets? Do you know?
I think it was the same. I think it was the same material, the same jacket, the same type of jacket. So his tailor made it for him, especially for the Ducks Unlimited, and they got a special tartan for it. So I'm not sure what the tartan's called. And Dad, all the shirts though are Dad's older shirts. So and so he put the jackets on, he put the shirts on, and then took pictures with them. And he wanted to make sure they all fit right. He wasn't going to let the guy get away putting a lousy jacket together. So yeah, so I don't know how many he did, and I know it was some people at Wolf Island, in Kingston, that asked him to do that because they were looking to do some stuff with Ducks Unlimited. So he was more than happy to help.
Well, it's great, and it hangs up here, and it's in my kind of like my little corner in my daughter's playroom as well. So as long as she doesn't yank it off the wall, we're in pretty good shape right now.
Yeah, I hear you there, Fines. I hear you there. I pray every day.
Mike, yeah, there you go.
I just wanted to bring up your movie there, Keep Your Head Up, Kid.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Just kind of give us the background on what went into that and.
Well, I had kind of talked to Dad if he wanted to do something like that, and probably I can't even remember how many years ago that was. So
2010, I believe.
About 10 years, yeah. So he said no, and then one day he said yeah. So I started writing the script, and him and I would write it and kind of go over it and everything, and so it was probably from first conception to being first shot, and when we shot it in Winnipeg. It's probably about 10 years. And so the CBC said, we just want to do one night. And then they liked it, so they did 2 nights of it, so it was 4 hours. And the first one set a record I still think that they have for a viewing audience. And then we did, so then about a year, maybe a year and a half later, we did the second one about Dad's career ending and then going to Hockey Night in Canada. So, but I was just... funny, I was just telling a story about that. Was if people haven't seen the movie, that we have Dad back playing in the 50s and 60s, and so we had to get players to be the extras. So we were in Winnipeg, and it was kind of in late spring. So we did a casting call for hockey players. So we got guys from the American Hockey League, from the Manitoba Moose, and the guys from the Brandon Wheat Kings, and some of the junior A teams. So these guys were super high-end hockey players. Like, these weren't beer league guys.
Yeah.
So the shorter hair guys, we said, okay, you're going to be the guys in the 50s because you got short hair. We got it. So we said, okay. So we had gotten a whole bunch of, old skates, like the old leather skates. And we had put new blades on them and sharpened them all up. We said, okay, guys, you got to, kind of pick your size and you got to go out. These guys couldn't skate in those skates.
No.
They were, they looked like somebody that just been on skates for the first time. And they were going, I can't believe Bobby Orr, Rocco Richard skated in these things. Oh my God. So I said, well, you got to tape your ankles. So we got tape, we tried to tape your ankles. And I just said, I don't know what we're going to do, guys. We can't shoot this because I said, these guys can't skate. So what we had to do was we had to go and get their skates. And then we had to paint them flat black. And then we had to get the tuck blades, the blades, and then get metallic spray paint and spray paint the tuck blades metallic so they look like the tube skates, right? So yeah, it was pretty funny to see. I think the guys got a real those guys got a real appreciation for the old timers back then. So we did it. It was really stressful though. I mean, it's hard because it was a little bit too close to the bone and. But I think it came out really good. I was really happy with it. Dad was happy with it. And, this was after Mom had passed away. So it was kind of tough for Dad to watch it. And the actress that played my mom really did a good job. So, and Jared Kiso, who played my dad, now he's in Letterkenny. So he went on to bigger and better things. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I love Letterkenny.
Oh,
I love the movie. Listen, that scene... oh my God, that ice scene, that ice bucket scene was one of my favorite scenes in movie history. I love that. That's just wild.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Did you? I was gonna say you were young, but did you ever get the chance to, to meet any of those guys as they, that Don coached coming up?
I met. I met Eddie Shore once.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like right out. It was in the movie, but it was like right out of the movie. It was Dad was coach of Boston. It was really late. Some reason, Mom and I got to the game late. We're walking down a corridor at the Boston Gardens. There was nobody there because the game was on. People were watching the game, and I saw this guy dressed really sharp with a hat and a cane walking, and my mom knew him right away. And he walked up and she said to me, "Do you know who this is?" And I didn't know who it was. I was like 11 at the time. I never heard of Eddie Shore. So I said, "Clarence Campbell," and she said, "No." And she said, "This is Eddie Shore." And I go, "Oh, Mr. Shore, how are you?" And he goes, "Do you play hockey?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh." And then he just looked at my mom and he says, "Don's coaching the Bruins." He says, "Who would have thought? He must be very proud." And then walked away. And that was the last time Mom saw him. And that, but when Dad coached Boston, it was a lot of fun. I used to go on the ice all the time before and after the practice. Me and Jerry Cheever's kids and Wayne Cashman's kids, and we'd go out and skate. And sometimes it was just an East-West game. The guys would let us play, so it was a special time. The only thing looking back, I wish I had brought like a little brownie camera and taken pictures. Because they're looking back of all the stuff that kind of happened. And I don't have any kind of behind-the-scene pictures. Like any pictures that you see are during the game or professional. I just wish I got a little, like an Instamatic and went down to some practices and took some pictures.
Yeah. Do you have any more plans for like any more productions down the road, or what do you kind of plan? And I know you're probably busy with the Grapevine podcast, but do you plan on any more videos or?
No, I'm not doing too much more hockey stuff. I think the NHL is really kind of taking control of their productions, and you look at the way the relationship that TSN and Sportsnet have with the NHL. I mean, not only is Sportsnet spend was it $5 billion or $3 billion on the thing, but they also own a percentage of the second richest team in the league. So it's a little incestuous, and so it's tough to be an independent producer and try to go in and get to do stuff with the NHL. So actually, I'm working on a couple of projects that aren't hockey related. So, it's as they say, it's the NHL is and the NHL has always been very good to work with. But I think they're just taking a tighter control of everything that they have. I mean, I would think at some point they would even like to broadcast the games over their own network, right? Just keep complete total control of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
I read an article was based on you and your dad at a game scouting not too long ago, and do you still go to a game with your dad? And
oh yeah, last year we go out to the games and he goes, but Dad, a guy like Dad, he's been around so much and he just has an eye for the kids to look at, and it's just. And I just say, like, why do you like that kid? And he just is, I don't know, I just like him. And eventually, if it's not that game, it'll be down the road. He'll come out. And, when some of the scouts are ex-NHLers that have been around for a long time, and they all kind of gravitate towards certain kids that you look at and you go, no, he really is not jumping out now, but why do all the NHL guys jump out at him? And I just think if you play the game, you see something that the guys that haven't played professionally see. And the funny thing is, I think that's with all sports, because I worked a long time ago. I worked on a golf show, and I followed the Canadian Tour around. And
sweet.
I don't know if you're familiar with golf. There was a guy named Steve Stricker. I don't know if you remember him yet.
Wow, yeah, of course. Great golfer. Right.
So he won the very first tournament of the Canadian Tour. It was his first professional tour he won. It was out in Victoria. He won in a playoff. And he never really did much after that. I think he made a couple of more cuts, but never finished in the top 10 after that. Missed some cuts. And there was a couple of younger guys that were consistently in the top 10. One guy was the rookie who won the Order of Merit, which was the most money. So at the end of the year, I talked to the old guard who had had their PGA Tour card, and they're kind of winding down and playing the Canadian Tour. And I said, all right. I said, who's going to make the PGA? And to a man, they all said, oh, Steve Stricker. And I go, really? I said, he won the first one, but he didn't do much after that. And they said, no, he's got it. They said he'll get his PGA card and he'll do well. And I said, even this one guy that won the Order of Merit, they said, no, he'll make it to PGA, but he's not going to go anywhere. And and then I look at talking to old like Brian Kilray, he'll look at a guy and see something in him, and then 3 years later, he's a top defenseman or top player, and they see something that like I can't, and I think a lot of scouts that don't play can't. There's very few guys that have dad's eye that haven't played the game.
Absolutely.
Do you still think? Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, go Findsy.
No way, you're up.
Is there any guys that you kind of can claim that like, hey, that's my guy? I scouted him, kind of deal.
I think kind of the guys like people say, do you have a favorite team? And I do kind of root for the Leafs a little bit. But I really kind of like look for the guys that I've scouted. I'm really like I was really surprised that Cole Perfetti. I think that Perfetti
slipped down to 10.
Slipped to the 10th. Yeah, and here's a guy that got 111 points in the OHL. And I was watching the broadcast. They say, "Oh, he's got to work on his skating." I was like, he's one of the better skaters I've seen at that age. So. So like I'm rooting for him. Like I really hope he does well in thing. And I think there's a kid that I watched. His name is Brendan Coe, and he slipped. I think he was like late 6th or 7th round, and I think he has the tools. I think there was a couple of things that happened in his life that he had to kind of get straightened out and all that. Not that he's a bad kid. It was just I think his father passed away, and I just think he's got all the tools to be a good second or third line center and to score goals. So I like kind of watching those kids to see how they go. Like Jamie Drysdale, I mean, he's a fantastic player. And I just hope they don't rush him. He's a defenseman. He's 5'11". He's not a big bruising defenseman. But he's one of the best defensemen I've seen at 15. He's just so smart, and he's like Paul Coffey. Paul Coffey skated. It was like a hovering of an air hockey puck. Yeah. That's the way Drysdale skated, and he played in the World Juniors last year as he would have been a 16-year-old and or 17-year-old, and he played well. Like, and he played a little bit, but and that's a tough tournament for even kids who are 18 to play well in. So I think he's going to be a top defenseman. So I kind of like looking at all the guys and see who kind of rises to the top.
I coached against Jamie when I was in with the Toronto Red Wings, and I could tell. Well, that Marlies team was just stacked, and I mean, it wasn't a fun day for us when we used to walk in the rink. That's for sure. If we kept it under 7 or 8, like that was a really good day for the boys. But oh man, like they were stacked, and there was just nothing you could do.
And I remember they were a big team.
Oh, huge. Like just the game plan was like just try to score.
Yeah.
like that. That was really it. Like that's all you could do. And right. And again, and Tim, you watch the GTHL so much. Like there's so many good players in that league, and that's why everyone wants to play in that league. And it kind of goes into my segue. Like obviously there's some major, things happening in the GTHL right now, and a lot of disappointed parents, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I'm gonna lay one on you, and I know, and again, I know you and obviously Don believe in Hockey Canada to the max, and he always stated how proud he is to be a Canadian. And so the GTHL decides to shut down, and a lot of people are speculating that the reason that they shut down was to allow independent hockey to play 5-on-5, so they do not get the bearing of responsibility if something happens. What do you think about that?
I don't get too much into the politics of the GTHL, and to be honest with you, I even kind of don't talk too much to the coaches, just because sometimes I want to get a pure view of what's going on, and the reality is I'm scouting. I'm just looking at his talent, and I don't want the guy, oh, he's a really bad kid, or this kid's not a very good kid, but he's a really good kid, and gives you, some type of story. So I mean, personally, I think the reason that they are doing it is, one, is Toronto's a hot spot, right, for the COVID. And I think, too, that they have to worry about litigation. You know what I mean? If a kid comes in and a whole team gets sick, I think they've opened themselves up to, some major litigation. So I think that's one of the reasons behind it. And I think that they don't know what the protocol is going to be, right? And, I heard one time that they were going to talking that the parents are going to drop the kids off, the kids are going to go in the rinks alone, but you can't have a 10 or 11-year-old kid going to the rink by himself. And even while we can't have parents in the stands, I think there's even some worrisome of if you have a kid, no parents in the stands, and something happens, that's there's not a parent to watch or to make a decision. And I just think it's just they're in a tough position because of the COVID, because Toronto's a hot spot, because there's so many kids from so many different areas playing in the G. Like, if you're up north, all the kids are from up north, right? But there's kids in the GTHL that live in Barrie, live in Whitby, live in Uxbridge, and come down and kind of all are mixing together. So I think that's probably the reason why they have to wait.
Tim, you're going to appreciate this because I've been dying to do it. And again, you leaned right into it for me, so thanks for teeing it up. You parents, listen. If we need, and GTHL, listen, parents need to be in the building. And they need to be. And the reason is exactly what Tim said. Safety. How many times has a parent saved a kid's life, or a doctor was in the stands because the trainer didn't know what to do?
Yeah.
Put them in the stands. Stop worrying about everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if it's one parent, right? One parent and you're, you got to sit 3 seats away or something like that. I really feel bad for the GTHL because they do try to do a good job, and the tournaments that they do run are always really top notch. And I just feel horrible for the kids that this is their draft year in the OHL. They must be so disappointed, and they must be panicking. And do I go on the ice? Don't I go on the ice? I don't quite know what the language was of can a team that's in the GTHL, can they go outside and practice together but is it sanctioned or not sanctioned? So I'm really not sure kind of what's going on. I think I might reach out to some coaches, even though I said I usually don't do that. I'll reach out to some coaches later in the year just to see kind of what's going on.
Yeah. And guys, I know I've kind of taken for Mike and Adam. It's obviously being a part of an arena and seeing and actually being down in the GTHL. There's parts of me that commend them for doing it too. It's not an easy stance, and they knew that was not going to be an easy decision for them to make. So Scott Oakman was on Fan 590 the other day speaking. I felt for him. Like, you could feel it through the phone that they had a tough decision to make, and I would just hate to be in that boardroom and put them in that position to shut down not just the AAA kids, Tim. I mean, everyone knows that 95% of the kids just love to play. And I think that's the more sad part than not just the kids that are, the elite kids.
Yeah. Well, it becomes like I'm talking to some of the parents. I mean, that's their life, right? Taking the kids to the rink, and they meet up and they come well, not all the time, but parents become friends on the team and they go out and do stuff together. And it's sad that's got to happen, but it's probably best in the long run.
And when scouting, I've heard before, a lot of scouts will kind of look for their off-ice interactions or like how they are kind of like on the bench while they're acting on the bench. Do you kind of look for those things when you're looking into a player?
Yeah, I look at body language. I do. Again, I don't talk too much to the, I know the OHL teams, if they're interested in somebody, they will talk to teachers. They'll talk to the parents, obviously. They'll talk to the teachers at the school. They'll talk to the coaches. If the kid works out, they'll talk to the trainer. and say, does he going through the motions? So the OHL teams really do their homework. But for me, I do look at body language. And one funny story was one guy who I'm really rooting for in the NHL is a guy named Robbie Fabry. And he had 2 devastating knee injuries with St. Louis, and he's with Detroit now. Stevie Yzerman picked him up, and it was good that the GM of St. Louis let him go to Detroit for basically nothing, just to say here's a chance to play. And but he was the same year as Connor McDavid, so it was a pretty stacked year. And we were at a rink I remember the rink was in Markham. And he was really playing well, and Dad was in the stands, and he lost the puck, and he just had some bad body language. He didn't try to get the puck back; he just skated back to the bench. So Dad very rarely says anything to anybody, but he goes, that kid's a really good hockey player, and he says he's just got a bad attitude. He says he can't have that body language. Wow. So he went down to the coach and told him, he says, who's that kid? I think he wore 13. He goes, Robbie Fabry. He says, tell him he's got to get better body language. Don't be skating skating the bench. Oh, woe is me. And so he did that one time. He did it with Victor Mete too. Okay. And Victor Mete used to when he played for the Junior Canadians, and he was the best skating defenseman I've ever seen at that time. At that age, he was better. He was a little bit better than Drysdale. And he would get the puck and he would go with it every shift. Every time he got the puck, he'd roar up the ice. And for some reason, Chychrun, Jacob Chychrun,
another junior Canadian,
he came on the team, and Mete kind of stopped rushing with the puck. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if his coach told him not to rush with the puck, or he got his nose bent out of shape and he didn't rush with the puck. Yeah. And so we're watching the Canadians, and this was kind of later in the season. Dad goes, whatever happened to that kid that could really skate? And I go, well, that's Victor Mete. He goes, well, what happened to him? I said, well, he's still playing. He goes, well, he doesn't go with the puck anymore. I says, I know. He goes, well, I don't even notice him out there. So we were leaving, and Dad walked by the dressing room. So he goes, I got to go in. So Dad walked in, and he said something. And he goes, what the F's wrong with you? Get the fucking go with it. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, what the F's wrong with you? Get going out there. And I guess after that, he got the puck. He started going with it. So
he turned out to be a pretty damn good player.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. I always, the funny thing was, I always said with Dad, because he is a smallish defenseman, and he was really small on the GTHL. I wondered if you put him at center. He would have been a guy that if he got the puck and got a step on you, there was no way you were gonna catch him. And I know he liked playing, but I just said to Dad, I said, I'd like to see the coach put him up at center for some, because he could be, but I mean, he's made the NHL and he's playing well, so who am I to say?
Yeah, we'll just leave him. We'll just leave him there. He'll do all right.
Yeah.
How much do you guys follow the major midgets and the potential for them to be redrafted?
We do keep an eye on the guys, and mostly kind of what I do is I keep a note on the guys that I think that should have been drafted that got passed over, and then I'll kind of go in and keep an eye on them and see how it's going. But I think for kind of how that's working out is I think it's a really blessing for the goalies, because some of the goalies they get in situations where maybe they're a little bit small and they get a growth spurt. And nowadays, if you're not 6'1" at playing minor midget under 16, I should say, a lot of the OHL guys don't want to look at you. And, if you're not 6'2" or 6'3", the NHL doesn't want to look at you, right? So sometimes these guys get a growth spurt, or sometimes, they're playing, they get on a very good team, or they get their confidence shattered and they can go back. So I really think that the major midget draft, I think it's been a really blessing for the goalies. It doesn't quite put that gun to their head as much as it used to.
Yeah, Don, Tim. You grew up in a famous household. Like a lot of people are not don't get to grow up with a local Canadian celebrity. Talk a little bit about what it was like growing up. Don's kid and going to the rinks with them, and kind of what that means to you now, as considering you still have that special bond.
Well, yeah, going to the rinks with Dad. I do appreciate it, how kind of special it is that at this time in our lives that Dad and I still go out and spend some time together, and I like going out to the rinks and I enjoy it. Sometimes in February when it's in the middle of winter and you've been to the rink 3 nights a week for the last 3 weeks, it gets a little tiresome. But Dad goes out and it's fun to go out and look at the kids but a lot of times when we're at the rink, we don't talk. Like, I like watching the game, and Dad likes watching the game. And a couple of times I've gone over to Dad's house to watch the game. And he doesn't like saying, he doesn't talk. He just likes kind of watching the game and analyzing it. So, it was fun. And with Dad coaching the Bruins in Colorado, I mean, again, it was a lot of special times going down with Dad and being able to go on the ice. And my birthday present when Dad was in Boston every year, or Christmas present, I should say, and birthday present, was I went to go on a road trip to Toronto with them, with the Bruins.
Nice.
So that was always a special time and lots of fun. And unfortunately, I was at the rink when Sittler scored his 10 points against the Bruins. And when I got on the plane to go back, all the Bruins said, "You can't come. You're bad luck. You can't come anymore." And so that was a lot of special fun and lots of fun.
Yeah, you know what? He went through some pretty trying times there when a lot of people turned on him. And I'll tell you something, I was one of those guys that did not turn on him. I've always been a Don Cherry fan and a proud, true Canadian. And not only that, too, I really believe that what he said was not intentional. But just give me a little bit of insight about how he felt. I mean, it was pretty devastating. And obviously he's got his own show now, and it seems to be working out. But that was a pretty tough time. But in your perspective, what do you think?
Well, the funny thing was, when Dad said it, I was with my wife, and I said, "This might be the end." I caught it right away. Yeah. I caught that right away. I thought, uh-oh. And I had inklings of, I worked a little bit on Dad's social media, but not as much, but I could just feel there was kind of a swell that Dad was a target. And then what happened was that that was Saturday night. Then Sunday, my wife and I went to New York just for a little vacation. And then Memorial Day was the Monday. I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday. And so I called Dad before I left. I says, "Anything? You get any feedback from last night Coach's Corner?" You like, no, not really. And I looked at the internet and it was blowing up, and then I knew Sunday that it was. I knew that Dad was probably going to get fired, and I think one of the reasons was that Scott Moore was the executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada for a long time. The show was John Shannon, and they were old time broadcasters, and they kind of understood you have to weather the storm. And I think the two new guys at Rogers didn't understand that, and I don't think they understand where Dad's fan base was. And so when I unfortunately, again, I was in New York, so I wasn't there with Dad all the time. And but just how the world is today was, I was at 9/11, the 9/11 Memorial Pool, when they came across on the phone on our news that this is, Don Cherry fired by Rogers Sportsnet. That's how I kind of found out about it. And at the time, my daughter was over in Spain, and she was working over there teaching. And 2 minutes later, I got a text: "Did Papa really get fired?" And like how that just spread, like how opinions and news spread so quickly now. And so I think Dad got out just before the wave crash, though. So there's a part of me that says I think he got out at the right time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like I said, I think it felt it across the hockey world as well, right? I mean, it's obviously seeing him there for years, and obviously a major change not having him there, and it's never been the same. I'm sorry. And all of a sudden, now COVID hits, and holy, like ever
Yeah.
since nothing good's happened since he's been let go. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think the saddest part, one of the saddest parts for me, is that I think what happened was Ron McLean he became the flag bearer of one side of the argument, and Dad became the flag bearer on the other side of the argument, and not by choice. And I think that I don't personally, in my opinion, I don't think Rogers was thinking very much of Ron. They weren't thinking of his career, and maybe what was going to happen, to the repercussions that were going to happen to him. And I think, they personally, I think that on the Sunday when Ron was on Hometown Hockey,
Mm-hmm.
he just should have said, there's a bit of a controversy with Don, and we're going to address it on Saturday. We're here to, I forget, they were somewhere in Ontario.
Yeah.
And he says, we're here to, and then let things die down. But when Ron came out and kind of said the statement, I think it flared up. And then, then the stuff that happened on the Saturday. So I don't think Rogers handled it very well on Dad's side or Ron's side. And I think that, I hope at some point in their lives they can sit down and have another beer together.
I hope, me too.
Absolutely. Did you ever get to meet Ron in person?
Ron McLean? Oh yeah.
I hear he's a really good storyteller. He's got a lot of them.
Yeah, he's quick-witted, like with the puns. He's constantly doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
So he's like that in real life, not just on.
yeah, some of them though you can't say on television. I said, Ron, hey, you're going to say something that's going to slip. As I say, he's a good storyteller, and him and Dad went through a lot of wars together, and I just, I do feel bad that they were kind of put on opposite ends, and Ron was put in a tough position. I think Dad was put in a tough position, and as I say, I felt that's the thing that bothered me. I think Dad getting fired on Remembrance Day bothered me the most, but I think Dad and Ron not being kind of ending it that way was also kind of bothers me.
Is there a story you could tell us about your dad or Ron involving you that kind of just brings a smile to your face whenever you think of it?
Like Dad and Ron very rarely did anything in the summer. They kept away, and even during the week of Hockey Night in Canada, they didn't say too much because they felt they wanted to keep it fresh, and they felt that they were with each other too much and they talked too much, that it's going to leave something off. So they were. But I think the one funny story that I always kind of get a chuckle out of is, I guess it was I forget what year it was, but Toronto was playing LA, and it was in the semifinals, right? That was the year that Gretzky high stick Gilmore, right? And so I remember that Dad got mad at who was the coach for LA at the time?
Long hair?
Yeah.
Oh man. Not that. What was that? Marty? No. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's on TV.
Nolan?
Not Nolan. It'll come to us. Yeah. We'll figure it out.
So anyway, him and Pat Burns got into an argument, right? So and they almost, this was back in Maple Leaf Gardens, and Pat Burns went after him, and Dad called the coach. This is gonna drive me nuts. I gotta go look it up.
It'll come to me when you're talking. 100%.
Yeah. So Dad called him Billy Ray Cyrus, and he says, "What kind of coach?" Barry Melrose.
Thank you. Wow. That's
he goes,
embarrassing.
"What kind of guy is Barry Melrose?" He says, "He long hair to have his dad," and he says, Dad really rips Barry Melrose. Well, unbeknownst to Dad and Ron McLean, that Hockey Night in Canada was in Calvington, Saskatchewan, filming Barry Melrose's dad and Wendell Clark's dad watching the game because they're both from Calvington, Saskatchewan. And Dad comes on, tears the strip off of Barry Melrose. Well, I guess Barry Melrose's dad called Barry, and Barry got really, really, really mad. And so they were in LA, and Dad was watching the practice. And all of a sudden, Dad looked around, and Ron was gone. He didn't know what was going on. So Ron told Dad the story years later that the PR guy came to Ron and said, Barry Melrose wants to see you after practice. So Ron went down to the King's dressing room, and Barry Melrose just went into a tirade in front of Ron. He says, and I want Don Cherry to apologize to me, and I want Don Cherry to apologize to my dad, and I want Don Cherry to apologize to everybody in Calgary, Saskatchewan, and I want him to apologize to my player. So Ron, I just see Ron stirring his coffee. He said, Barry, he said, if Don even knows that I'm here talking to you, he says, you will get it unmercifully for the next 2 or 3 games. So he says, I'm just going to do you a favor and leave it alone. And he left it. And so Dad didn't even do that until, I think, like maybe 5 years after Barry Melrose retired or something like that. So, but that was kind of the relationship they had back then. So, they seem to get in trouble in LA quite a bit. But another funny story with that was Dad and Ron used to go to watch the games. And again, Dad kind of seen something. And so Toronto was up 3-2. It was game 6. Toronto was up 3-2. And Toronto was, Dad watched the LA morning skate, and then he watched the Toronto morning skate. And so Toronto just had to win one out of the 2 games. And Dad turned around and said, there's no way Toronto's winning the series. And Ron goes, why? He says, I just don't like their feel. I don't like the way they're practicing. He says, and I know that Pat Burns doesn't like it either. And he says, I just don't like. Little did he know that, the high stick, and then Gretzky'd have the game of his life. But he just, and Ron mentions that. He says, I remember you just saying, no, Toronto's not going to win this. So
wow,
I know. Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy. Well, listen, Tim, it's like I said, I've got about 5 more hours of questions, but I'm sure you want to get to bed sometime tonight.
Well, anytime, guys. I appreciate it. It's lots of fun.
Well, listen, I'd love to have you back, and obviously, obviously we've got way more to discuss. And just before you head out, I want you just to quickly talk about the Grapevine podcast and kind of what that's meant to you guys having your own platform.
Yeah, well, we do it's called Don Cherry's Grapevine podcast, and it's on Spotify and Apple and everything. We do it once a week. We record it Sunday, and after Sunday we have a big lunch. So we hurry up sometimes if we're hungry. Mm-hmm. And we just talk a little bit about, what's going on in the National Hockey League, and get Dad tell some stories, and we kind of meander all over the place. My sister Cindy joins us, and my nephew Del, who's pretty handy with the equipment. He records it and edits it. So, so it's lots of fun. We've been doing it. We just passed our 2 millionth download. We have a sponsor called Spreads.ca, and they're an online gaming and casino from Quebec, and we have lots of fun with them. And Dad's not a good bettor. He bets with his heart and not with his head. So
happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I think we're close to 2 million downloads. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Only about 1.999 million away. Yeah, we'll be almost there.
Well, one day we will get there.
Yeah, so it's lots of fun. We do about half hour, 40 minutes, and sometimes we take the old Grapevine clips and bring clips, but Dad goes, I wonder if I'm ever going to run out of stories. And this is, I don't think so. I think you got enough Eddie Shore stories and Punch Imlach stories to last a lifetime.
I've always wondered that, how even just like the guys who have been on TV, or just everyone who's been around, just continuously find like new stories. I don't know if it's just maybe something that comes to their head or something reminds them, and all of a sudden they go, I remember when this happened, and he just always keeps going. And then all of a sudden there's a new book. He gets a new book like every 3 years.
Yeah. And it's funny with Dad is that sometimes I'll say, what'd you watch last night? What'd you do last night? And he's, I don't remember what he did. But then we'll be talking, and he'll remember some guy that he got a fight with in Quebec, and who hit him over the head with a stick. And I heard Gene Chartron in a brawl hit me over the head with a stick. And I go, you can't remember what you watched last night, but you don't forget that. So, some questions, from people from the Twitter account, and
got a follow, and I can't
Yeah.
be any more happier. I was bragging with the
Oh
boys,
yeah,
and
I was sending it. Oh yeah, I was sending it hard.
Yeah, and then Findsy went right after and started commenting, and then all of a sudden he goes, "So did I." I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's an honor to be followed by you guys.
So, well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Anytime you want me to come on.
Hey, one more quick one, Tim. Is there any more Blue the dog, or is there no more?
No, we had the original Blue was in Rochester, New York, and then Boston, and then she passed away at 15, and then Dad got another Bull Terrier, and then when it was my turn to have a dog, I got a Bull Terrier, and they're a handful. I only can handle it's funny. Everybody that has a Bull Terrier, if people ask, say, should I get a Bull Terrier? Everybody that owns one says no, because they are a handful to handle. I love them. I love the breed to death, but they're hard ones. So no, unfortunately, there's no more. I think I'm a little too old to get a puppy. And to tell you the truth, when my last Bull Terrier died, it took it so hard that I just said I can't go through that again. So. Yeah. I'm a coward that way. So
my dad had the same thing when his last dog passed. He said the same thing. It's just so hard. Yeah, I have 2 old English bulldogs myself, and one's getting getting near the end of his life, and we got a younger one to kind of help us. But I don't know if it'll help. It's going to be definitely very hard to let it go. It's just like your kid, right? Like it's not easy.
Well, Dad really was. The one thing with Blue and with Dad when he was coaching, it really was kind of therapeutic. That Dad would take her for long walks after practice and things weren't going right. Like he'd be gone for 2 hours taking her for a walk, just to get away from the rink and kind of think things out. And so when the first Blue passed, I mean, Dad and Mom really, it was hard because when we got the first Blue, Dad was unemployed, didn't have a job, couldn't find any work. He was painting houses for $2 an hour, and our luck just seemed to change after we got her, right? And so it was pretty tough. And I'll tell you, if you got time, I'll tell you my dad's favorite Blue story.
Yep.
Was we were coming home from a grapevine show, and Dad let Blue out in the backyard, and there was a huge skunk, and it was a massive skunk, and Blue and the skunk started to fight, and Blue had it by the head, and the skunk kind of curled under and was clawing her and spraying her, and they were rolling around just like in a cartoon. They fell into a window well, and they couldn't get out, and like it was beyond a skunk smell. Like it was beyond. It was so rancid. So Dad went down and he pulled Blue out, and she was just like somebody dunked a bucket of water on her. So Dad got a piece of paper and started wiping it around her eyes because he was afraid it was going to get into her eyes. Yeah. And so he was throwing the paper away, and Dad looked up, and the paper kind of raised it. It looked like a skunk's tail raising. And Blue went right after it again and tore into it. And Dad was so proud that Blue didn't quit and went after it. And but that was probably when she was 10 years old, and she lived to 15 or 16, and you could still smell the skunk. And it was so bad that we had a steel door, and the paint peeled off the steel door.
No.
The next day. And it completely disintegrated the screen in the window well. And Dad got we had a split reader sailing fence, and he broke the fence, and he put a cedar rail down so the skunk could crawl out that night. And but that was Dad. Every time Dad talks, do you remember the time Blue was all wet and she was like, we thought she was dead. She went after the dad. Daddy told that about 1,000 times.
That's awesome.
Well, like I said, Tim, thanks very much for coming on. This is Off the Puck Coffee. We're a proud member of the Finest Huddle Network. We ask you to please follow at Off the Puck Hockey on Twitter and Instagram. Again, follow the live streams and check us out. Thanks, Adam and Walks Tonight for joining in. My producer, Maddie Huddle from behind the scenes. And again, as always, big shouts to Marty Zylstra Music for providing us some great music and for our intro and our outro. And Tim, I can't thank you. I can't tell you what this means to me. This has been an absolute great night. I wish I had 4 more hours.
Well, I appreciate it. Anytime, guys, let me know.
Thanks again, guys. I'm your host, Tyler Fines with Off the Puck Hockey. And again, you can see our show this week on YouTube, and we're going to be up on Apple Podcasts, episode 31 on Spotify. Have a great night, and thanks again for coming on and listening.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it so much, man.
Thanks guys. Thanks.